The greatest battles you will ever fight will take place in silence, far away from the eyes of the world. They won't be televised, they won't be posted online, they won't even be recognized by most of the people around you. Yet they will decide everything about the life you live. These are the battles in your mind, the war for your discipline, the fight to hold yourself to a higher standard when no one else is keeping score. You must win the war no one will ever see, because it is the war that shapes the person you truly are, not the image you present, not the mask you wear, but the actual substance of your character. And the truth is, most people lose this war quietly. They don't make a dramatic announcement about it, they simply stop trying. They surrender inch by inch to excuses, distractions, and the comfort of mediocrity, until one day they wake up and realize they have been living as a shadow of who they could have been. Winning this invisible war begins with understanding that your greatest opponent is not the competition, not the critics, not the doubters. It is the part of you that prefers ease over effort, comfort over challenge, and distraction over focus. It's the voice that whispers, "No one will know if you cut this corner." It's the subtle urge to lower your standard because you believe it won't matter this time, but it always matters. Every private choice builds either your strength or your weakness. And the reality is, the character you build when no one is watching will eventually reveal itself when everyone is. You cannot hide the results of your habits. They will show in your body, in your work, in your relationships, in the opportunities you gain or lose. This is why you must train yourself to treat every unseen moment as if the outcome of your life depends on it, because it does. The war no one sees is fought in the small decisions. It's whether you get up when your alarm goes off or give yourself permission to roll over. It's whether you finish the last rep when no one's keeping count. It's whether you choose the difficult conversation over the easy silence. These decisions don't make headlines, but they make habits, and habits make your future. The person who wins this war understands that discipline is not a performance for others. It's a contract with yourself. It's the quiet act of keeping your word when breaking it would be easier. And each time you honor that contract, you strengthen your ability to resist temptation, to follow through, to endure discomfort. This is the essence of self-mastery, doing what must be done, especially when you could get away with not doing it. One of the reasons this war is so hard to win is that there is no immediate applause for victory. You can resist a temptation today and the world will not cheer. You can put in the extra hours and no one will instantly reward you. And yet over time, these victories accumulate. They compound. They build a foundation so solid that when life's visible challenges arrive, you meet them with a strength that seems unshakable to others. They won't see the years of private battles you fought to become that person. They will only see the results and call you lucky, gifted, or exceptional. But you'll know the truth, you built it in the quiet, in the shadows, long before the spotlight arrived. You must also recognize that losing this war does not happen in one decisive defeat. It happens through erosion. You let one standard slide, then another, and then another. You tell yourself you'll get back on track tomorrow, but tomorrow rarely comes. The enemy in this war is not an external force, it's the gradual lowering of your expectations for yourself. This is why vigilance is essential. The moment you feel yourself slipping, you must correct course immediately. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for conditions to improve. Correct yourself in real time, because every compromise you allow becomes easier to repeat, and every repetition becomes a habit that will be harder to break later. To win the war no one sees, you must learn to live with integrity in solitude. Integrity means being whole, undivided, the same person in the dark as you are in the light. It's easy to perform excellence when others are watching, but true excellence is maintained when there is no audience. This requires self-respect at the deepest level. You must respect yourself enough to uphold your own standards, even when there is no immediate consequence for lowering them. You must become your own witness, your own judge, and your own competitor. And in doing so, you build a kind of inner authority that cannot be faked, borrowed, or stolen. One of the most effective weapons in this war is the power of identity. When you see yourself as someone who always follows through, who does the right thing even when it's inconvenient, you begin to act accordingly, without the need for constant force. This is why it is so important to define clearly who you want to be, not just what you want to achieve. Goals will give you direction, but identity will determine whether you stay on the path. The war is easier to win when your actions are not just tasks, but expressions of who you believe yourself to be. And when your private behavior matches your chosen identity, you create alignment, a state in which discipline feels natural rather than forced. You must also prepare for the fact that this war is never truly over. There will always be a next decision, a next temptation, a next opportunity to either honor your standards or betray them. This is not discouraging. It is empowering, because it means every day is a chance to win again. Every day is a chance to strengthen the muscle of discipline, to refine your character, to deepen your self-trust. And the more often you win, the more momentum you build. Momentum turns discipline from something you struggle to maintain into something you instinctively protect. It becomes part of who you are, and losing it becomes unthinkable. In the end, the war no one will ever see is not just about achieving success. It's about becoming the kind of person who can sustain it. Many can reach a high point for a moment, but only those with the discipline forged in private can hold it, protect it, and grow it. The private victories are the root, the public rewards are the fruit. And if you tend to the root faithfully, the fruit will come in abundance. You may never receive applause for the hours you've worked alone, the temptations you've resisted, the standards you've upheld in solitude, but you will see the proof in the life you've built. And when you stand in that life unshaken, you will know beyond a doubt that you have won the war no one will ever see. If you are to win the war no one will ever see, you must first understand that it is not fought in grand dramatic moments, it is fought in the small, unremarkable ones. The quiet morning when the alarm rings and no one will know whether you get up or stay in bed. The hour in the evening when no one is watching to see if you spend it studying, training, building, or wasting it. These moments seem insignificant in isolation, but over time they decide everything. They are the bricks from which your future is built, and because they are so small, they are easy to dismiss. You tell yourself it's just one skipped workout, one broken promise, one day off the plan, but habits are formed the same way structures are built, one piece at a time, and each piece either strengthens the foundation or weakens it. The invisible war is most dangerous because it is a war of repetition. Every choice you make reinforces a pattern, and that pattern becomes the default setting of your life. The man who regularly avoids the hard work when no one is looking will find it almost impossible to rise to the occasion when the world is. The woman who keeps her standards high in solitude will find it almost effortless to maintain them in public. The habits you practice when unseen become the reflexes you display when it matters most. And that's why the smallest moments carry the greatest weight. You are always casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming, and the ballot box is open all day, every day. One of the most important principles in this battle is the law of self-respect. You cannot win a war in which you do not respect the soldier. If you continually break promises to yourself in private, your mind begins to doubt your own word. You stop believing that you will follow through. That doubt is fatal in the quiet moments, because it makes it easier to justify the next compromise. The successful protect their self-respect as fiercely as their health. They keep their word to themselves even more than to others, because they know that self-trust is the foundation on which all discipline rests, and every time they honor that trust, the inner voice that urges them forward grows stronger. The war no one sees also demands mastery over your internal dialogue. Every person is engaged in a constant conversation with themselves, and that conversation shapes the decisions they make in solitude. When the inner voice is filled with excuses, rationalizations, and doubts, discipline becomes nearly impossible. But when it is filled with commands, commitments, and encouragement, discipline becomes the default. You must be able to speak to yourself as a commander speaks to a soldier, with clarity, authority, and certainty. This is not about self-punishment, it is about self-leadership. The leader in you must set the standard, give the order, and ensure it is carried out even when no one else is there to enforce it. Winning in the unseen also requires you to control the environment you place yourself in. Many lose the private battle not because they lack willpower, but because they place themselves in settings designed for failure. They fill their spaces with distractions, temptations, and noise, and then wonder why focus is elusive. The disciplined mind engineers its surroundings to support its mission. It removes the things that weaken resolve and keeps close the things that strengthen it. It does not leave success to chance. In the unseen hours, your environment is either your ally or your enemy, and you get to decide which. One of the great temptations in this battle is to think that no one will ever know if you let something slide, and perhaps no one else will, but you will, and that knowledge shapes you. It changes how you see yourself. You cannot respect a version of yourself that you know has abandoned their own standard. That quiet loss of self-respect is the seed from which larger failures grow. The winners of the unseen war treat every small standard as sacred. They refuse to break it for convenience, for mood, or for comfort, because they know that once you make an exception for yourself in private, you will eventually make one in public, and by then the stakes will be higher. The unseen war is also about the discipline to endure the silence. You may put in months, even years of consistent work with little visible reward. Most will quit here. They will decide the effort isn't worth it because the recognition hasn't come yet. But the one who wins this war understands that the silence is where transformation happens. In the quiet seasons, when nothing appears to be changing, the foundation is being laid, the roots are growing deeper, and when the moment finally comes for the results to show, they will be undeniable. The war is not won in the noise, it is won in the stillness before the noise begins. You must also guard against the erosion of standards caused by fatigue. Tiredness makes the mind whisper compromises. It tells you it's fine to stop early, to delay the hard thing, to skip the essential step. Fatigue is not just physical. It is mental, emotional, and spiritual. And in the unseen war, it is one of the most dangerous opponents you will face. The disciplined learn to anticipate it. They build systems and routines that carry them when motivation is gone. They know that if they can act according to principle even when tired, they can be trusted to act according to principle in any condition. Ultimately, to win the war no one sees, you must make the private moments matter more to you than the public ones. You must take pride in the unseen work, the unacknowledged effort, the victories that no one else will applaud. Because that is where character is forged. That is where greatness is built. And when you have built enough private victories, the public ones will come, not as surprises, but as inevitable results of the battles you've been winning all along. There is a truth about the war no one will ever see that many people refuse to face. It is lonely. In the public battles of life, you often have support, encouragement, and visible recognition. But in the private war, there is none of that. You are alone with your decisions, your temptations, your standards. No one can fight this battle for you. No one can take the steps, do the work, or make the sacrifices on your behalf, and that loneliness is where many fall. They convince themselves that if no one is there to witness their effort, it doesn't matter whether they give it or not, but it matters more than anything, because the person you are when you are alone is the truest reflection of your character. The mask is gone, the performance ends, only you remain, and if you cannot win there, you will not win anywhere. One of the most relentless enemies in this private war is the voice of compromise. It does not scream, it whispers. It speaks in gentle, reasonable tones. You've done enough for today. You can catch up tomorrow. No one will notice. And it is in those moments that your future hangs in the balance. Every time you resist that voice, you take ground. Every time you give in, you surrender it. The danger is that compromise feels harmless in the moment, but it compounds in silence. It erodes the sharpness of your discipline without you realizing it. By the time the damage becomes visible, the habit has taken root. This is why you must train yourself to hear compromise the moment it begins to speak, and shut it down without negotiation. Discipline in the unseen is not about intensity, it is about consistency. Many can push hard for a short time when inspired. Few can maintain their standard day after day when there is no immediate payoff. The ones who win this war build routines that remove decision-making from the equation. They do not rely on feeling motivated, they rely on structure. They know exactly when, where, and how they will take action, and they protect those actions with the same seriousness they would a vital appointment. This structure becomes their shield against inconsistency. It keeps them on course when moods change, when life becomes chaotic, when excuses try to creep in. You must also guard against the subtle drag of mental clutter in this private war. A mind filled with unresolved tasks, unanswered messages, and unmade decisions is a mind that will seek escape instead of execution. Clearing your mental space is as essential as clearing your physical space. The more order you create internally, the more energy you free up to fight the battles that actually matter. This means taking time to plan, to prioritize, and to eliminate what does not align with your mission. The private war is not only won by doing more, it is won by removing what weakens your focus. Another truth about the unseen war is that it will test your patience. You will put in the work for long stretches of time without visible progress. You will be tempted to believe that your effort is meaningless because the results have not yet arrived. This is where most surrender. They confuse unseen growth with no growth at all. But the one who understands the nature of this war knows that the roots must grow before the fruit can appear. They trust the process enough to keep showing up. They understand that the discipline they build in these silent seasons is the very thing that will allow them to handle the weight of success when it finally comes. One of the most underestimated challenges in the private war is maintaining your standard when life feels easy. Struggle sharpens you, but comfort can dull you without warning. When things are going well, when no immediate threat is pushing you, the temptation to relax your vigilance is strong. But the ones who win know that the habits they neglect in comfort are the same ones they will need in crisis. They train when they don't have to. They push when there is no urgency. They keep their edge sharp, knowing that it is far easier to maintain discipline than to rebuild it once it has been lost. You must also understand that winning in private often means losing in public for a while. It may mean saying no to invitations, turning down opportunities that don't align, or appearing absent while you focus on building what matters. To the outside world, it might look like you're doing less, but you are doing the most important work of all, the work that no one will see until it is ready to be revealed. This requires the courage to let go of appearances, to stop feeding the need to look busy, and to focus entirely on being effective. The rewards of this will not be instant, but when they come, they will be undeniable. Ultimately, the war no one will ever see is about self-mastery. It is about proving to yourself over and over that you can command your own actions regardless of mood, circumstance, or audience. It is about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted completely, not by others, but by yourself. Because when you know you will keep your word in private, you eliminate hesitation in public. You move with certainty, you act with confidence, and you carry the quiet power of someone who has already fought and won the battles that matter most. The war no one will ever see is not a single battle you win once and never fight again. It is a lifelong campaign. There will be days when victory feels effortless, when you rise early, execute your plan, and end the day knowing you've honored your standards. But there will also be days when the weight of resistance feels heavier than you thought possible, when every task seems like a burden, when your mind searches for any excuse to retreat. It is in these difficult days that the war is truly decided, because anyone can be disciplined when conditions are perfect. The real test is whether you can hold the line when everything in you wants to lower it. If you can win on the days you least feel like it, you can win on any day at all. One of the most deceptive traps in this unseen war is the belief that small defeats don't matter. You tell yourself missing a single workout, breaking a single commitment, or ignoring a single standard won't change anything. But these are not isolated incidents, they are messages to yourself. Every choice tells your mind who you are. When you choose to compromise, you are casting a vote for the identity of someone who compromises. When you choose discipline, you are casting a vote for the identity of someone who follows through. Over time, those votes add up, and the identity you vote for most often becomes the one you live by. This is why the smallest victories in private are worth more than the biggest wins in public. They are the ones shaping who you really are. In the private war, you will find that your greatest enemy is not fatigue, not distraction, not even temptation. It is justification. The mind can explain away anything. It will tell you why today is different, why the rules don't apply this time, why skipping your work or bending your standards is reasonable. Justification is the enemy's most persuasive weapon because it sounds like logic when it is really surrender in disguise. The disciplined learn to see through it instantly. They recognize the familiar patterns, the rehearsed excuses, and they refuse to negotiate with them. They understand that the moment you start negotiating with your standards, you have already agreed to lower them. You must also understand that the war no one sees is a war of endurance, not speed. It is not about how quickly you can change, but how long you can maintain the change you've made. Many people start strong and end weak because they confuse early effort with lasting transformation. They think the first burst of discipline is enough to carry them, but the weight of time eventually wears them down. The winners prepare for this. They pace themselves. They don't burn out chasing quick results. They build systems that allow them to sustain discipline for years, even decades. They measure success not just by what they accomplish, but by how consistently they can live according to their principles. The invisible war is also a war of attention. Where you focus in private will decide what grows in public. If you allow your attention to be stolen by trivial distractions, you will find that your most important work remains undone while your time slips away. But if you guard your attention and direct it toward what truly matters, you create momentum in the areas that actually change your life. This requires vigilance, because attention is stolen in small increments, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, until hours are gone. The disciplined treat their focus like treasure, refusing to spend it on anything that does not serve their mission. Another truth about this unseen war is that progress is rarely linear. You will move forward, then backward, then forward again. There will be seasons where everything clicks and seasons where nothing seems to move. In the slow seasons, your patience will be tested. You will be tempted to quit because you cannot see the growth happening beneath the surface. But the one who understands the nature of this war knows that visible results are only part of the process. Much of the work being done is invisible, internal, and foundational. They keep showing up, trusting that consistency will eventually reveal what effort alone cannot. The war no one sees is also a battle against invisibility itself. The human ego wants recognition. It wants someone to notice the work, to acknowledge the effort. When that acknowledgement doesn't come, many lose motivation, but those who win have learned to detach from the need for applause. They know that private victories are not wasted just because they are unseen. In fact, those victories carry the most weight precisely because they are earned without the fuel of external validation. When you can work at your highest standard without anyone else knowing, you have reached a level of discipline that is unshakable. In the end, the war no one will ever see is won through relentless self-leadership. It is the art of guiding yourself with the same firmness, clarity, and conviction you would use to lead others. It is the refusal to let moods dictate action, the commitment to uphold your values in every circumstance, the ability to correct yourself instantly when you drift. And when you live this way long enough, something changes. You stop seeing discipline as a burden and start seeing it as your natural state. You no longer fight the war as a reluctant soldier. You fight it as a seasoned commander who knows exactly what is at stake and will not settle for anything less than victory. One of the hardest realities about the war no one will ever see is that it does not end when you reach a goal. In fact, reaching a goal can be the most dangerous moment of all because it tempts you to believe the battle is over. You tell yourself you've earned the right to relax, to ease your standards, to take your foot off the gas. But discipline is not a temporary tool. It is a permanent way of living. The second you let success convince you that you no longer need to maintain the habits that built it, you have already begun to lose ground. The war is not about arriving somewhere and stopping. It's about becoming someone for whom the standard never drops, no matter how much they've accomplished. The enemy you face after success is different from the one you faced before it. Before success, the threat is quitting because the results haven't shown up yet. After success, the threat is coasting because the results already have. Complacency is the silent assassin of greatness. It doesn't take you down with one strike. It weakens you slowly, convincing you that you can maintain your position without continuing to earn it. The ones who win this war for life understand that the habits, focus, and discipline that got them to the top are the same ones required to stay there. They refuse to let achievement dull their edge. Another form of resistance in the unseen war is the pull of distraction disguised as opportunity. As you grow more capable, more people will want your time, your skills, your attention. Invitations will come, offers will be made, and not all of them will be aligned with your mission. In fact, many will be designed to pull you away from it, even if unintentionally. The disciplined know how to say no without hesitation. They measure every new possibility against their vision, and if it doesn't move them forward, it doesn't make it onto their calendar. They understand that the wrong yes can cost far more than a missed opportunity. It can cost the focus that keeps them winning in the shadows. The war no one sees will also confront you with the reality of your own habits when life feels stable. Stability, like success, can be dangerous if it leads to stagnation. It is easy to let urgency fade when there is no visible threat or immediate challenge. But the disciplined don't wait for crisis to sharpen their focus. They create challenge deliberately. They set new goals, take on harder projects, and push themselves beyond their comfort zone, not because they have to, but because they know that a sharpened blade cuts cleanest when the time comes to use it. They manufacture growth when circumstances no longer demand it. In this private war, one of the most valuable skills you can develop is the ability to reset quickly. Even the most disciplined will make mistakes, miss a day, or break a standard at some point. What separates those who win from those who lose is how fast they recover. The losers let a single missed day turn into a lost week, then a lost month. The winners correct themselves immediately, refusing to let one failure become a pattern. They understand that the longer you let a drift continue, the harder it becomes to steer back on course. A quick reset keeps momentum alive, and momentum is the most powerful ally you have in this battle. Another opponent you will meet in the war no one will ever see is the fatigue of consistency. Doing the right thing over and over, without applause, without recognition, without novelty, can wear on even the strongest mind. But the disciplined see this as proof that the process is working. They don't crave constant excitement, they crave progress. And they understand that progress is often boring. They embrace the monotony because they know it is the monotony of mastery. Every great performance, every great creation, every great life is built on countless repetitions that no one else will ever notice. You will also encounter resistance in the form of voices, both external and internal, that try to convince you your standard is too high. People will tell you to relax, to stop being so serious, to enjoy life more. They will project their own discomfort with discipline onto you because your commitment reminds them of their own compromises. The internal voice will echo this, asking why you're working so hard when no one is watching. This is the moment you must remember why you started. You do not keep your standard for their approval. You keep it because it defines who you are. And the one who wins this war knows that lowering their standard even once is a greater loss than any temporary discomfort they endure by keeping it. In the end, the war no one will ever see is about self-governance. It is about leading yourself in such a way that even without witnesses, without reward, without immediate payoff, you still act in alignment with your highest values. It is about being able to trust yourself completely, knowing that you will do the hard thing because it is the right thing, not because someone else is watching. When you live like this long enough, the war becomes less about fighting and more about maintaining the peace you've built within yourself, a peace built on the certainty that you are exactly who you say you are, in public and in private, without compromise. The war no one will ever see demands a kind of endurance that is not just physical, but mental and moral. It is the ability to keep showing up for yourself day after day when there is no immediate reward and no audience to validate your effort. This endurance is forged in repetition, in the countless moments where you make the choice to do the work instead of making the excuse. It is built quietly, in the same way that muscles are built, through resistance, through strain, through showing up, even when it would be easier to sit still. The truth is, you will never accidentally become disciplined. You must decide to become disciplined and then prove that decision with action, over and over, until it becomes second nature. One of the most dangerous threats to that endurance is the slow creep of mental fatigue. This is not the exhaustion that comes from a hard day's work, it is the exhaustion that comes from living in constant internal negotiation. Every time you debate whether to follow through on your commitments, you drain energy that could have gone into execution. The most disciplined people remove that negotiation entirely. They treat their standards as fixed, not open to discussion. They know that if you make discipline optional, you will eventually opt out. By making it non-negotiable, they preserve their energy for doing rather than deciding, and this is one of the key advantages they carry into every private battle. In this unseen war, you must also confront the truth about distractions. They are not harmless. Every distraction you allow weakens your focus, not just in the moment, but as a habit. When you train your brain to give in to distraction, you are training it to abandon what matters whenever something easier or more entertaining appears. The disciplined approach is not to rely on willpower to resist distractions in the moment, but to design an environment where they are removed or minimized entirely. They understand that it is not enough to want focus, you must protect it. And in doing so, they make their private hours sharper, deeper, and more productive than those who live in constant digital noise. Another enemy in the private war is emotional drift, the gradual shift in your internal state that leads to lower standards without you even realizing it. Perhaps you are tired, frustrated, or discouraged, and you tell yourself it's fine to cut back just this once. But that single moment becomes the seed for a new, weaker baseline. The winners of this war are aware of their emotional state, but they do not let it dictate their actions. They anchor their behavior to principle, not to mood. They know the mind can play tricks, making temporary feelings seem permanent, and they refuse to let those feelings rewrite their commitments. The private war will also test your ability to delay gratification. There will be days when quitting feels like the fastest way to relief, when indulging in comfort feels easier than holding the line. But the disciplined know that every time you delay gratification, you strengthen your ability to choose what you want most over what you want now. This choice builds a kind of power that compounds. With each repetition, the pull of distraction weakens, and the pull of purpose grows stronger. Over time, this becomes one of your greatest advantages. While others are ruled by their impulses, you have learned to rule yours. You must also be prepared for the silence. In the early stages of building discipline, there is little feedback, no obvious proof that your effort is paying off. This is when doubt creeps in, telling you that maybe it doesn't matter, maybe you can relax, maybe no one will care if you stop. But the truth is, every unseen action is a brick in the structure of your future. Just because you cannot see the walls rising yet does not mean they aren't being built. The winners keep stacking those bricks day after day until the structure is undeniable. They understand that the absence of visible results is not the absence of progress, it is the preparation for it. Another constant opponent in this war is the tendency to underestimate the cost of small errors. Skipping a standard once may feel insignificant, but in reality, it sets a precedent. The more comfortable you become with breaking your own rules in private, the easier it becomes to break them when it counts most. The disciplined protect their standards fiercely, knowing that their true strength is not in how they act when it's easy, but in how they act when the effort feels invisible and unrewarded. They know that the habits they practice in secret will one day write the headlines of their life. Ultimately, winning the war no one will ever see is about building a reputation with yourself that cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. When you know you will keep your word to yourself without hesitation, you move through life differently. You carry a quiet certainty. You stop hesitating when opportunities appear because you know you are prepared to meet them. You stop fearing challenge because you've already faced yourself in the hardest moments and prevailed. And in the end, that is the true prize of this war, not the applause of others, but the unshakable knowledge that you can trust yourself completely. The war no one will ever see reaches its highest level when you stop thinking of it as a fight against weakness and start seeing it as a commitment to mastery. In the early stages, you battle laziness, distraction, and inconsistency. But once you have built discipline, the challenge changes. Now you must refine, sharpen, and elevate the standard you have already set. Complacency can still sneak in, not in the form of obvious failure, but in the form of good enough. You tell yourself that maintaining your current level is victory, but mastery is never static. The moment you stop raising the standard, you begin to slip. The winners in this hidden war know that progress is the antidote to complacency, and so they keep seeking small, deliberate ways to grow, even when they are already ahead. One of the most difficult aspects of this stage is that the changes you need to make become more subtle. When you first begin the war, the victories are obvious. You replace bad habits with better ones. You cut out glaring distractions. You build consistency where none existed. But as you advance, the flaws are finer. They hide in the small inefficiencies, the moments when your focus drifts just slightly, the places where you could give just one more degree of effort. To the outside world, these may seem insignificant, but you will know. And in this war, the knowledge you carry about your own effort matters more than anyone else's opinion. You cannot hide from yourself, and you must be unwilling to settle for anything less than the absolute best you can give. At this level, you also begin to realize that the war is not just about what you do, it's about who you are becoming. The goal is not simply to execute tasks with discipline, but to embody discipline as part of your identity. It is no longer something you do in order to reach a goal, it is something you are, regardless of the circumstances. This is a powerful transformation because once discipline becomes identity, it no longer requires constant force to maintain. Your actions flow naturally from the person you have decided to be. And because of that, the war shifts from constant effort to constant alignment, making sure that every choice you make reflects the standard you have chosen to live by. A great danger in this phase is the pull of external validation. As your discipline produces results, recognition will come. People will notice your achievements, admire your habits, and speak of your consistency. And while there is nothing wrong with receiving praise, it becomes dangerous when it begins to influence your decisions. If you start performing for applause instead of principle, you risk losing the very thing that built your strength in the first place, the ability to work at the highest standard even when no one is watching. The disciplined remind themselves daily that the war is still private, still fought in the moments that will never be seen, and that public success is only the shadow of private mastery. You must also learn to guard the systems you have built. Discipline thrives on structure, and as you succeed, life will present more opportunities, responsibilities, and demands on your time. Without protection, these new pressures can crowd out the very routines that keep you sharp. The winners in this war are ruthless about defending their non-negotiables. They treat their daily disciplines, training, study, planning, reflection, as sacred appointments. They will turn down good opportunities if they threaten the foundation. They understand that a strong structure can carry more weight, but only if it remains intact. Let the structure weaken and everything it supports begins to wobble. Another challenge at this stage is resisting the temptation to coast on momentum. When you have been winning for a long time, momentum can make things feel easy. The danger is that ease can make you careless. You stop checking your work as closely, you stop reviewing your habits, you stop questioning your assumptions. The disciplined avoid this trap by actively seeking challenge. They deliberately step into situations that test their skills, that stretch their limits, that force them to adapt. They understand that challenge is what keeps the edge sharp, and without it, even the strongest blade will dull. As the war continues, you will find that the greatest reward is not the results themselves, but the transformation of your own mind. You will think differently, speak differently, carry yourself differently. Your tolerance for mediocrity in yourself and in others will disappear. You will make decisions faster, with more clarity, because you trust yourself completely. And while others are distracted by every passing trend, you will stay locked on your course, unmoved by noise, unmoved by opinion, unmoved by anything that does not serve your mission. This is the quiet confidence of someone who has fought the unseen war and refused to lose. Ultimately, winning the war no one will ever see means living a life where your private victories are so consistent that public success is inevitable. It means you have built a foundation so solid that no circumstance can shake it, no setback can destroy it, and no amount of time can erode it. You no longer fear failure because you know how to rebuild. You no longer chase validation because you know who you are. And you no longer question whether you can handle what's ahead because you've already proven it every day in the battles no one else will ever witness.